Hi there, you're listening to the Estranged Heart podcast, and I'm your host, Kreed Revere. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and if this is your first time here, thank you for selecting this podcast to listen to. As we begin today's episode, I invite you to grab a cup of coffee or tea, settle in, and listen with an open heart. But first, the regular disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist or counselor. Nothing within this podcast should be considered or taken as therapy. If you are in need of therapeutic support such as counseling, please seek out a therapist near you. Hi there. So we're back with another episode. And today's episode came about, it came from a discussion that was in my online Facebook support group that I have for estranged moms and reconciled moms. But it's something that I hear often from estranged moms regarding their adult children and the life that they feel, the moms feel, the kids had when the kids were growing up. So I wanted to dive into this a little bit more today and offer some different perspectives, and we'll get to that whole piece in and of itself, meaning perspective, in just a minute. But first, a couple of reminders. I generally run one support group through Zoom that started last fall, and it runs for 8 sessions, 8 biweekly meetings at a time. And then we take a break, and then we come back, and then we run 8 more, and then we take a break, and we come back, etc. And the purpose and reason for this structure is that my support group, any support group that I run, is not just a place to come and vent and spew all of your stuff at or in. And it's a place where we come together to support one another, to be in community with other people who understand the very specific type of experiences and pains and heartache that come with estrangement and reconciliation, the challenges and things like that. But we also come together to learn how to move through the pain. And so each week there's a topic, there's homework involved, and then we come back the following week and we discuss that a little bit more, and then we have a new topic, and so on and so forth. So I have offered to have another support group like that for estranged moms. Thus far, the interest has not been significant, and I find that very interesting. It's a challenge in the online support group, and when I'm talking about these the 8 biweekly meetings, that is through Zoom. But what I find interesting is that in the online support groups, it's a real challenge for me. I have to heavily monitor that support group online because I do not allow people to come in and just spew ugly, nasty things about their kids. And there's a purpose to this, to everything that I do. This podcast, the support groups, the classes, etc., is to help parents, help moms to move through the pain of estrangement and into healing. And when we get stuck and bogged down in the just spewing all of the icky and nastiness that all of us feel from time to time as estranged moms, but when we get stuck in that and we can't move beyond it, it's not helping. It just doesn't help. The place to do those types of things is in therapy. And you can process all of those feelings and do all of those things and talk about your kids however you want to talk about them in the therapy room. That's what I did. I kept mine in the therapy room, and I had the trust and the safety and knowing that what I said was confidential and would stay there. So, but I'm saying this today to say that I find it interesting that estranged moms are less inclined to sign up for classes and workshops and things like that, that will help them to move through that pain. And I think that part of that has to do with sometimes when we let go of the pain, we let go of our last connection to whatever the pain was from, right? So in this case, the connection to our kid. And I get that. It's hard to let it go. It's really hard. And it's even more difficult when we have not processed our own stuff. And that's why I am such a proponent of therapy and getting into therapy and processing our own stuff so that we can move through that and come from a completely different place, and we can let go of the pain and still hold space and hope for that reconciliation. So anyway, that if there is interest from estranged moms who would like to have a Zoom support group that is focused on moving through the pain with lessons and topics and very targeted information and homework involved with that, please email me. I'm happy to consider another group. But right now there's not an interest in it. And so that has been shelved until such time as there's an interest that is shown. What is moving forward is a Zoom support group for moms who are reconciled or recently reconciled, because they, and if you are reconciled, you understand that once you move from estrangement into reconciliation, there comes a whole nother set of challenges and obstacles and concerns and fears and things that come with that reconciliation. You just don't move from estrangement to being reconciled and then you're like, okay, everything's hunky-dory now and we can just go back to living our life. That's not how it works. And so if you are recently reconciled, if you feel like you're walking on eggshells around your adult children and you're, fearful of ending up back in estrangement again, whether that's now or down the road, and you would like some support again on how to learn and grow and become healthy in your relationship with your adult children, please contact me. I'm happy to put you on the list. That group will be starting in 2 weeks from yesterday. So on Saturday, February the 4th, that group will start and it will run bi-weekly. So feel free to reach out to me via email to learn more about that and how to register. And the email address is theestrangedheart@gmail.com. Again, theestrangedheart@gmail.com. So I've had a quite a good interest in that group, and it makes me happy to see estranged moms wanting to continue to learn and grow and ensure that their relationships with their adult children moving forward are healthy relationships and not just, oh yeah, we're talking again and so everything is fine. So that pleases me a lot. So there's that. There will be some workshops coming starting the end of March and a retreat that is coming in September. So be listening out for more information on those things to come down the road. So on to today's topic. Today's title for today's episode is My Kid Had a Charmed Life. Why are they being so mean? And the subtitle is, Oh, really? Is that true? So again, this came out of my support group online. There was a discussion about this on a post, and but like I said, I hear this often from moms, saying my kid had a good life. What I generally hear is something along the lines of, oh my God, my kid's life was fantastic compared to mine. Right? And today's episode, I want to invite you to consider something different. Okay? But first, our quotes. Your perspective will either become your prison or your passport. And that is by Stephen Furtick. The second is, you never really know a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. And that is by Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. And the third and final quote is, perspective. What you see depends on not only what you look at, but also where you look from. And that is by James Deacon. So when we are looking at and considering the type of life our children have or had growing up, perspective is everything. And your perspective is not their perspective. And their perspective is not your perspective. So we have two different things going on here. And if we refuse to entertain the fact that someone else believes something different than us, we are stuck. Plain and simple. Stuck, stagnant, staying put. And so if you're wanting to move the needle on your estrangement, it is essential that you begin to look at your adult child's perspective on their childhood. And before I get going too much further into this, I want to stop for a second and say, when you say to your adult child, you had a charmed life, you had an excellent childhood, and they tell you, no, I didn't. No, I suffered in my childhood. I was neglected emotionally, and you say to them, you're out of your mind. You had everything. We gave you this and that and the other thing and took you here and took you there, and no, that is not factual. That right there is a prime example of gaslighting. You are gaslighting your children when you tell them that their reality is not true. So let's define gaslighting for parents, and because this is new language for parents, many parents, although it's becoming more and more common to hear these words and phrases, and so some parents have learned what they mean, but there are still those that do not. And so to gaslight, it's a verb, and it means to manipulate someone using psychological methods into questioning their own sanity or powers of reasoning. So when you tell your adult child, when your adult child is like, I know for a fact that I was emotionally neglected as a child, and you tell them, no, they weren't, you are using a psychological method to manipulate them so that they will question their own sanity and reality. And let me just say, there are adult children who do the same thing to their parents. So again, I'm always talking about the two sides of the same coin. Let me ask you this, estranged parents. When your child tells you you are not a good parent, what is the first thing you do? instant defenses go up, and you fire the firearm right back at them, and you say, you don't know what you're talking about. You want to know about a bad parent. Let me tell you about a bad parent. Let me tell you about what I grew up with. Right? The whole time you're defending yourself. And you're arguing the fact that you were a good parent. Because they're telling you that your reality is not correct. So then we turn the tables. We go to the other side of the coin. And you're telling your kid their reality is not correct. So what do you expect? What do you think that they're going to do? They are going, immediately, defenses go up, and they start attacking. Because their reality is just that. Their reality. So the only way to move the needle on this is for somebody, and again, generally it needs to be the parent. I did this with my children. I argued for years that I was a great parent, that I kept them safe, I kept them from harm, I provided for them, I did all of these things for them. But what I did not protect them from was the emotional neglect. And I'm here to tell you, as I say those words to you right now, I want to cry. And at the same time, I want to get angry because it was not my intention. I didn't know anything about taking care of a child's emotional needs. And you know why that is? Because I didn't have my emotional needs cared for as a child. But it doesn't change the fact that I did not provide that for my children. Doesn't matter what my intentions were. Doesn't matter what I did or didn't know. What matters is that was their reality, and I have to honor that. I have to honor that. I'm not going to gaslight them anymore. I gaslit them all their growing up years, especially as teenagers and young adults, telling them that their reality was trash. They didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And I know that I don't want somebody telling me what my reality is, or that my reality is not, quote unquote, correct. So I work hard at trying not to tell other people what their realities are. Because I want to get that in return. So, again, we come back to perspective is everything, right? Think about how you feel when someone tells you that your reality is not true. Okay? Just chew on that for a little bit. Your memories and experiences are not theirs. Again, I see so many parents that get so mad when their adult children do that exact same thing to them. But they don't see it when they are doing it to their kids. Because they're so tied up in defense mechanisms that they can't see anything, quote unquote, beyond their nose. And if we're going to move beyond this, tit for tat, and I know what's right, you don't, I'm right, you're wrong, if we're going to move beyond that, somebody has to, as I say all the time, somebody has to step out of the dance. Somebody has to stop doing what they've been doing. Another piece to this is, I oftentimes hear parents say, we gave them the best life ever. We took them on vacations, and we went here and there, and we took them out of the country, and they got to experience this, that, and the other thing, and we bought them the best of everything. We sent them to the best college and completely paid for, and we bought them the house, and and every time I hear all of this stuff, to me, what I hear is things, 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 things. And what I hear from children, from adult children, are, all I wanted was their time and attention. All I wanted was their presence. All I wanted was to hear that they love me. I have yet to find an estranged adult child who says, all I wanted were trips to Paris and the best schools and the designer clothes and, a brand new car when I turned 16. I don't hear that at all. At all. As a matter of fact, what I hear are the estranged adult children that had all of those things. They tell me I'd give all of that back to hear my mom or my dad say, I love you as you are. That's all they want. They want to know you love them and that you're proud of them as they are. And I get emotional about this because this is something that I experienced in my life as an adult child. Wanting time and to hear, I love you as you are. Not as I want you to be, or I'll love you when you do this or that or the other thing. But I love you as you are. And I'm guessing that most estranged parents, many of them did not have that as a child growing up. And I think that you too want the same thing. Because that's what I hear that you want from your adult child. So, food for thought. I know that growing up for me, my sister seemed to have, and I say seemed to because I have not had this conversation with her, so I don't know for sure. But again, from my perspective, she's always been more about the physical things in life and wanting, the designer clothes and the beautiful home and things like that. And I was always the kid who just wanted somebody to spend time with me and to tell me that I was okay as I was, that I didn't need to change to impress or gain someone's love. So my sister got a lot of the things that she wanted from my mom. And I did not get the things that I wanted from my mom. And my sister did not get those things from my dad, and she's never been close to my dad. And I got the things that I wanted as a child from my dad's, and I was really close with him. Still am today. So, just food for thought. I think it's also important to remember that our adult children do not have the decades of life experience that we do as parents. So I believe our perspectives can change over the years with the things that we learn and come to know. And a lot of those things we can't learn and come to know without just life experience. So I think it's important to recognize that as well. Okay. How can we move through this? How can we learn to see things from our child's perspective, our adult child's perspective? How do we do that when we feel like they had a fantastic life, childhood growing up, and they don't? The first thing is what I talk about all the time. You got to get curious. If you're not curious about it, you're not going to learn. And you're not going to change, and you're not going to grow, and those kinds of things. Because you're not curious. You don't care to find out anything any different. Right? So you have to develop a sense of curiosity. And to be curious, you have to have an open mind. You have to be willing to entertain and ask yourself something different. You have to be willing to entertain a different belief, a different perspective, those kinds of things. So, asking ourselves questions. What might my adult child be thinking or feeling or experiencing? What did they think or feel when they were a kid and I divorced their dad? What might they have experienced in their childhood when we moved 15,000 times in 2 years, right? Like, I mean, I know that's an exaggeration, but what might life have been like for them at the age of 8 as an 8-year-old? And remember, this is another piece to this, right? Is you have to look at it from the perspective of a child, not your perspective as an adult. They were the child. A child views things in life very differently than an adult with life experiences. Okay? It's important to practice the pause. I talk about this a lot. Stop before you react. Pause for half a second and think about, is there something else I can consider? Is there a different way of doing this? Is there a different way of thinking about this? Can I choose something different? Okay? Again, the getting curious and practicing the pause kind of go hand in hand, right? And then I feel it is absolutely imperative that you release the need to be right. Because as long as you feel like I have to be right, and that, in my opinion, comes from trauma. It's a defense mechanism. And so we feel like we have to be right in order to be secure, because in the past, somewhere along the way, we weren't right and we were not secure. There was fear and pain involved with that. So today we have this need that we have to be right. And as long as you are in that space, there will be no I've never seen a reconciliation happen with a parent who insists on being right. Just doesn't happen. So you need to make a choice. Is it more important for me and my perspective to be right and not be in a relationship with my adult child? Or am I willing to entertain my adult child's perspective and be wrong? Okay? I think you have to, along with being right and being wrong, and things like that, it's important to ask yourself the question: how is this serving me? This need to be right. What am I getting out of it? How is it serving me? And are you getting the end result that you want? Are you achieving what you want to achieve? Because if you are, then that's fine and dandy. You keep on keeping on, my friend. But if you're not getting the result that you want, you have to change. And I'm here to tell you that our adult children are craving and, dare I say, dying to be seen, heard, and validated for their experience of their childhood. And most parents need help in getting out of their own way in order to be able to do that for their children. And as I talk about for myself, that was therapy. I couldn't do it on my own. I had to have support to help me figure out a different way, and a different way of being with myself, and a different way of believing things about my own self, and a different way of being in relationship with my kids. And I had to get humble. Right? Ruptures are going to happen because we're all human. But the repair can't happen if you have this insatiable need to be right. I had to get real humble to be able to begin to entertain a different perspective that my children had. So I will leave it here for today, and invite you to welcome in curiosity in the privacy of your own home. You don't have to call your kid and say, I'm going to get curious now, and should I ask this question or that question? That's not what I'm saying. Get curious in your privacy of your own home. You can get curious, and there's no one there. And then, in your mind's eye, there's no one there that is going to be shouting at you or screaming at you or telling you this, that, or the other thing. Just get curious and ask yourself, what might life have been like for my child when they were 4 years old or 8 years old or 16 years old or 22 when this, that, or the other thing happened in our family. And really looking at it from the perspective of that child's age, right? And their maturity level. Children do not view things the same way that we do as adults. And it's imperative to recognize the difference with that. So I'll leave you with that. Until next time. This brings this episode to a close. I hope that this time together was time you feel well spent, and that you are able to find some takeaway nuggets to help you on your journey, wherever you may be on your estrangement and reconciliation path. If you feel you've received something helpful or positive from this podcast, please consider following us, sharing this podcast with others, leaving a positive review, perhaps entertaining becoming a guest on our show, or following us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok under the same name, The Estranged Heart. As a reminder, there is an online support group on Facebook. If you are a estranged mom who identifies as being spiritual and approaches estrangement with a sense of curiosity rather than blame and judgment, and desire to do inner self-work and reflection, please seek us out. We can be found at facebook.com/estranged mothers support group. And lastly, if you are an estranged parent or an estranged adult child and would like to have your story shared on the podcast, anonymously or not, please reach out to me via email at theestrangedheart@gmail.com.